we've had probably 2 or 3 discussions of this whole Iraq thing that went on, but we've never had a Euro's perspective.
Across, the road, there was an Abrams flipped over on fire, and we're flying through there like 40 mile an hour. I'll never forget, we were sitting in the back of the Humvee, and Derek comes back. He's like, there's an ambush ahead. We know it's there. We're just going to blow through. And he's got the nods on. He's like, dude, there's like 10 guys in that house. There's dudes on the roof. They've all got AKs. And we're like, I'm at the front of the Humvee. He's at the back. We're loaded for bear, and we're ready to rock. We start rolling. And I'm like, it was the first time I'd really kind of come to grips with my own mortality.
Eric Kirkman, thanks for coming.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but...
Well, I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding. I know exactly why, because using the same unit I was with, and you're probably one of the hardest working guys there, and I just wanted to, we've recently found out, I think we worked in the same place for about 3 years before I even knew you actually worked there.
Where?
Apache.
Oh.
I've been there for 5 years.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that you were there for like the first couple of years I was there.
I just got there, down here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got there in 2020. So
wow.
I knew you were there because I showed up and I was stalking people on the, our workforce manager or whatever, so looking for people. I'm like, hey, Bill, we're down here.
There's somebody else that worked there too. I think they left though. There's a guy I went to flight school with that's there now. He's a W5, which is really weird.
It's weird seeing our peers grow up and
in charge of everything.
I'm like,
man, I know.
Do y'all know that we're in charge now and how terrible that is?
It's a bad idea, man.
When I was in, as a user in the field, I had this idea that Apache PM was like this, super high end, all the smart folks are there and big offices because that's the fielding guy. He manages the fielding for all the, the helicopters, and then she does this job. And then I finally got to the building for I don't know, we were doing an AMCOM 101 or something. I don't remember what it was. And, Frances Love, a friend of mine, she's like, hey, I got some stuff for you up at my desk. And she took me in the elevator. We go up and it was a cube farm. Right. I couldn't have been more depressed.
Frances Love. Man, you talk about one smart person.
Oh, yeah.
Man, she's probably the backbone of that. The people that know her know that she's a backbone. But, if you didn't know her, you'd be like, well, who's this? But
you don't know Frances? You need to know Frances.
She's got her fingers and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Before I get started, you got to choose one of these.
Oh, hat or
a T-shirt.
Hat or T-shirt? I'll take the hat.
I figured you would.
Yeah.
If you really want if you want a T-shirt, I'll give it to you. I just don't like giving away stuff that you're not going to wear, or use it as wipe your car down or something. So...
I'll take the hat.
Yeah, but you can have either one, I guess.
Awesome.
So let's talk about from your very, very start of life. I
was a twinkle in my dad's eye.
I was getting ready to go there, but in a bad way. So I know you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
Yep.
So what part of Pennsylvania?
Small town Pennsylvania. So I grew up in a place called Three Springs. That was my address. I lived between two towns that each town was about 300 to 400 people, 2 miles in either direction. It's kind of south central, about an hour north of Maryland. It's rural, real rural. There was, I think, 89 people in my graduating class. So
only place I know is Philly and Scranton.
Yeah,
is that any?
No, it's nowhere. Philly's all the way on the other end over there by Jersey, and so if this is Pennsylvania, I'm kind of right there, down there at the bottom.
Gotcha.
Yeah, farm country stuff.
So I saw what high school that you were in, but how was you in high school? Was you like straight A guy, or always in trouble?
I was a goody two shoes. Yeah. I was a nerdy fat kid, and every girl's best friend, but always a bridesmaid, never a bride kind of thing.
Or you one of the gay guys?
No, I was basically I was not popular with the ladies. I was a big fat guy, more so than I am now. This is my retirement body.
Yeah.
But I had this when I was 14. So
I don't think it looks that bad.
Well, it did. It was all I was gross. But
oh, come on.
I know. That was my defining feature. And but yeah, I was a good student, I come from good stock, I guess. And I joined the Army when I was 17, signed up for the DEP program and stuff. And after that I stopped trying So I'm like, I'm going to the Army. So who cares?
Might as well live it up now.
Yeah. I had 4 study halls, I think, my senior year.
Yeah.
So
what year did you go? What year did you enlist?
I enlisted in 99, but I left in 2000 when I graduated. So graduated June of 2000 and left for the Army in August, like everybody else. I was an August baby. So yeah, no time off between it. So I went to the Army in 2000 and I retired in 2020. So I did 20 years, 8 days, and that was it.
I was exactly 20 years.
Exactly 20.
If I could have got out at 16, I would have got out. They were like, yeah, man, you can retire. We'll let you go early. I'm like,
I'm gone. The Army is one of those things I'm really glad it happened, but I never want to do again.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. What made you, so what was your decision to go in the Army? Was it just to get away from Pennsylvania, get away from family, or was it something, what was your decision to do that?
So we were firmly middle class, right? But I got 2 older sisters. My oldest sister went to Elizabethtown College. So it's private school, very good education, but very expensive too. So, and plus I had a middle sister, and one day my folks sat down and they're like, so we sent your sister to college, you 2 got to figure something else out. And I always wanted to be a pilot, honestly. Top Gun got me,
sure.
You know what I mean? So that's what I wanted to do. And wasn't a whole lot of opportunity around where I grew up. You work for JLG making lifts, man lifts and that kind of stuff, or there's farming and that kind of stuff. But that isn't what I really wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. That what do I want to be when I grow up thing. So I wanted to fly jets. Like that's what I was going to do. So I went to the recruiting station when I was 17 and went to the Air Force recruiter. And bear in mind,
that's a common theme between everybody I interview. It's always the Air Force first, man.
Well, I went in and I was grossly overweight. No muscle, just gross. So I went in and they're like, "What do you want?"
They took out the trash yesterday and they come back.
I'm like, "I want to fly jets," and they just kind of laughed me out of the office.
Well,
and I walked out and I was looking at there's the Marines and the Army recruiters right there in the same building, and I walked right past the Marines. There's no chance that was going to happen. I saw Full Metal Jacket. I know what the cult's all about, as do you. And so I went to the Army, recruiter's office, and I was like, "Hey, I'm interested. I want to fly." And the guy's like, "Well, you can't just go fly. You got to enlist first," which was a blatant lie. I come to find out later.
You're right.
But he's like, "You're super fat, and we're not going to be able to take you like you are." It was brutally honest.
He said that.
Yeah, he's like, "You're super fat, man. We can't, but we'll work with you, right?" See, he's like, "We'll help." So they gave me like a diet plan and stuff, and they're like, "You have to do something to lose weight." I was like 270 pounds, 5'10", and like 36% body fat. Like I was fat. I was a fat kid.
Yeah.
So he would have me come in like every 2 weeks or whatever to weigh in and stuff. He's like, "You got to find something that's going to work." So I joined wrestling, right? Because I had a bunch of friends that wrestled, and they're like, "Dude, if you need to lose weight, join the wrestling team." And I'm like, "I've seen you guys practice. I've seen you starve yourselves." I'm like, "I really don't want to do this, but I got to do something." So I joined wrestling my senior year, and I was 260 something pounds when I started. And within 4 months, I was down to 189. I had so much to lose. it just kind of flew off. But I was eating like a pack of ramen noodles and some like Sunny Delight. Like that was
how could you wrestle with that, with no food at all?
You suffer through practice. Like we would, you warm up with like 2 miles, and we did conditioning, and our practices were like 2 or 3 hours long, and we would, wrestle it was conditioning like for the first half, and then wrestling for the second half.
No.
And you're dead. Like the most athletic and high performing kids in our school were the wrestlers, and all day they just kind of sit there like zombies because they have no energy. So you would eat right before practice.
Gotcha.
So you had some energy, and then be miserable for 3 hours and, wearing
miserable for 22 hours.
Oh my God. It was so bad. One of my teachers, he's like, "Please let me feed you because you're going to die." But if I hadn't have done it, I never would have, lost the weight I needed to lose.
Sure.
And, so I I only wrestled, I made weight to 189 because there was no way I was going to beat our heavyweight Randy Neuter. He had been wrestling for ages and I was brand new and I sucked and I knew it, but you know, I'm in it. I might as well suffer through and try and win some matches. And I finally made weight for 189. I think I ended up wrestling like 6 or 7 matches. I won 2 or 3, I think. I wrestled the state champ at 189, who was the like 3-time state champ at 189. Derek, it was just like you would expect. Like it was at district tournament or something like that, and it was the top seed versus the lowest seed, right? I don't know why they do that. Maybe for the entertainment value, but I wasn't even seeded, so I had to wrestle a kid to get seeded last, right? Wow. And then I ended up wrestling this guy Derek Tipton. He was an absolute monster, and my coach was like, just go out there and have fun, I guess. I don't know what to tell you, Kerf. So I went out there and we had this move. We called it the tomahawk flop, where they shoot in, you get him a headlock, kick him in the nuts as hard as you can, and try and flip him over top. So that's my plan. Legal? No. No. You got to make the kick look, inadvertent. Yeah. So he comes in, he shoots in, I get him in a headlock, and I kick him in the nuts as hard as I can, and he just keeps on coming. So my only real skill in wrestling was if I was on my face, you couldn't flip me over. Like that was if I'm on my face, I'm good. I can hang out there all day. And he's trying to get me over, and I'm getting a little cocky, so I start talking smack. I'm like, come on, you little bitch. This is all you got. So he just stops and stands up. And I'm like, oh my God.
We got to do this again.
So they put us back together. He pinned me in like 8 seconds after that. There was no contest whatsoever, but yeah. So I did the wrestling thing, lost all the weight, and then kind of stayed in shape till I shipped out for basic, and the rest, as they say, is history.
What'd your parents think about you going in?
Dad served, so he was all right with it. Mom was too. She's protective of her baby. I'm the youngest,
sure.
But I'm like, I'm not. I wasn't going in to be an infantryman or something. Really, really dangerous. And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm in aviation. We stay in the rear with the gear. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be on an airfield somewhere. It'll be fine. So, and when I signed, I was 17, so they had to sign, and co-sign with me. Yeah. So Dad he had joined to be an aircraft mechanic, I think, and ended up as a generator mechanic. Like he went through the school and then he showed up to his unit and they're like, you're a generator mechanic now, so do that. And he was an MP for a little while. Like back then, you just kind of did whatever they told you were going to do. No. So he was at Carson for a while and stuff. But they handled it well until we deployed, and then Mom didn't handle it so well. But to be expected.
Did was Texas, or I guess Germany would it be, but was 6.6 the first unit?
6.6 was first and last unit for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was only ever in 2 units my whole career. Been 20 years. So I showed up there, did basic NAIT, showed up to Texas there with you guys in 2001, I think. And we did our
we all got there at the same time pretty much. Yeah.
Like when I showed up, me and Lang showed up and there was, I think 14 people in the unit. Like the highest ranked person was a sergeant. Yeah. And like we did nothing for like a month. But
go to lunch for 4 hours.
Dude, it was awesome. And then people started showing up, and then we actually had to do Army stuff. And then 9/11 happened. Yep. So that was fun.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure everybody knows where they're at, but going from the Marine Corps to the Army, it was my first Army unit that I was in. And so in the Marine Corps, every base in the Marine Corps got guards on it everywhere. Yeah. You can't get in there without showing your ID and everything. So first time I went in the Army, well, actually the first place was Fort Rucker. And I didn't even know I was on Fort Rucker because there was no gate.
Back when everything was an open post.
Yeah, you just drove up in there. I'm like, man, what's all these buildings? What? It's got an Army something on here. I'm like, man, I thought, I'm going to get in trouble. We snuck in there. So, being in Texas, and of course it was wide open there too. And then of course 9/11 happened, and matter of fact, I was in here with my son in school. Yeah. And it happened. I watched the planes and I was coming back to work because I didn't know what all was going on. I saw the planes. I'm like, oh man, what an idiot. It's daytime. Yeah. What a moron, didn't even think because the second one hadn't hit by then. So I'd left there, come back to the house, and I was going back to work, and I get back to work and there's this 5 mile long
line to
car.
get
I'm
in.
like, what in the hell's going on here, man? Yeah, of course, find out what would happen. But so I was 6'6" at Texas for you.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was brand new. I didn't know anything about anything at the time, but had some good NCOs, good leadership while we were there. Scott Dickey, and then eventually Brian Mace, he took over. Derek Likes, who I work with now. I'm kind of his boss, which I absolutely love. I have no real authority over him, but I'm kind of his lead, which is fantastic. But I'm glad I started out with that group and got to experience the things I did, because that kind of set the tone for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every unit that you're in, you think is the best unit that there is, you know what I mean? But I really think that was a really good unit, and they let us know it. You know what I mean? That we had a lot of pride in what we did, and every accomplishment they actually acknowledged when we did well. And Mike Barbie was Tim Edens was.
Yeah, he was
Edens
in Texas.
Yeah, Edens in Texas, and then Mike Barbie when we got to Germany. But yeah, I had a really good run of leadership in my early days of the Army. So I really enjoyed that while we were there.
General Edens now.
Yeah, General. Yeah.
He was a lieutenant colonel back then, but
I've been to his house here in Alabama. Had a barbecue at his place. I was overseeing Bjorn one day, and he's like, "Yeah, Tim lives right over there." I'm like, "General Edens isn't what I'm going to call him."
Yeah, right.
It's like, "No, please, Tim." I'm like, "That's going to be really hard for me to do." So,
he actually saved my career.
Really,
Edens did. I got in a little trouble when I was there. I don't know if you knew about that.
I was an E4, like I was a private, and nobody tells us anything.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of juicy things that happen that I never.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of juicy stuff that happened with you all that we don't know about. You know what I mean? And I know one of them. We'll get to that. Yeah. So I got a little mishap happened at well, I guess we won't go there. I'm thinking about whether I want to do it or not. Let me ponder on that, see if I even want to do that. But yeah, screw it. We were at the O Club. We used to go to the O Club every Friday.
Yeah.
If you wasn't flying, which was basically, we hardly ever flew on Fridays for the most part.
As it should be.
And it wasn't sitting there, all night. It was just, an hour or two after work. And then, a lot of people lived on post, so you didn't have to drive. So, so we're at this O Club, and all right, I'll go ahead. I had two pictures in my hand, right? Now you got to remember I was pretty young, so don't judge me too bad. Had two pictures in my hand. I was getting pretty,
Yeah, like you do.
Pretty lit. And so Scott Dickey comes up, and we're all sitting there talking. We're having a great time, together, just hanging out. Because, we got to know each other a lot. And then, that was just kind of like a new friendship with everybody, I mean? So everybody's having fun.
It's the bonding experience.
Yeah, everybody was enjoying each other. Nobody was mad at each other yet.
Yeah. So, that comes later.
Yeah, it gets there. But so we were having a good time, and Scott Dickey, our commander, comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Bill, I want that patch over there." And I looked over, and there's these two guys in these flight suits, and, both of them had a patch on. And I'm like, "All right, sir, I'll be right back." And I put my shit down, and I walk over. And I don't think he thought I was going to do anything. So I didn't even, here's the bad thing. I didn't look at the rank or nothing. I'm just staring down the patch, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the patch. And it was kind of like a disc, up top,
high top table
with like a 2-seat thing, right? And these two dudes were sitting across from each other, and I'm just in there staring at this guy. And he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I'm just staring at his patch. He's like, "Hey, can we help you with something?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I grabbed the patch, and I go, and I turned around. Well, as I turned around, the guy over here grabs my arm, and I turned around, and I was like, just don't do that,
Don't accost me after I just physically assaulted you to steal a patch.
I said something to him, but basically I was like, don't do that. So I turned back around. I go back to where we were at, and Dickie and them, they're all just talking to me. I guess they didn't even see what I was doing. So I go there, and I rip Dickie's patch off his uniform. I was like, "Here you go, sir." And he looks down. He's like, "Where's that from?" I'm like, "Sir, you said you wanted that patch." He's like, "Bill." "Oh, Bill." Well, that guy that grabbed my arm, he come walking over. And of course, Bob, me and him recruited together, right? So Bob's standing behind, Bob's maybe about an inch or two taller than me and probably 30 pounds on me at the time. And so this guy comes over, hey, man, that wasn't real cool what you did. I'm like, you need to get out of my face. And he's like, you need to go apologize. And Bob looks at him. He goes, I think you ought to do what he said and just get back where you were at. That guy turns around and goes back and sits down. No big deal. It's all over with, right? Monday morning comes, man, and I get into work and I walk in the office and Dickie's like, hey, Bill, me and you got to talk. Everybody get out of here. I'm like, man, what's going on? Did you think twice? So everybody leaves the office. He's like, hey, I got some bad news. I'm like, what's going on, sir? He's like, that guy that you took that patch off of? I'm like, yeah. I was like, this is what this is about. I'm thinking, no big deal. He's like, well, that's the commander of the fixed wing unit. I'm like, what do you mean commander? Like company commander? He's like, no, the whole. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, we got to go talk to, I was going to say Colonel Edens at the time. He's like, yeah, Colonel Edens wants to see me and you right away. I'm like, man. So anyway, we go over there and, I'm at my best military, snapping and popping. And
the Marines came out there for a minute.
So I walk, I go over and see him and, Dickie was in there talking to Edens at first and they bring me in there. Of course I stand, attention salute, do all the good stuff. And he's like, so why don't you tell me what happened, Neil? I'm like, well, sir, it was a really big mistake. I said, blah, blah, blah. I said, there was alcohol involved, which makes it worse. And blah, 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 blah. And he's like, well, we're going to put this in your records. He said, but, we're going to keep it here local. If you don't have any more trouble by the time we leave, to get to Germany, we'll be okay. It's like it never happened. But he said, if you sneeze wrong, all of it's coming out. I'm like, yes, sir, I get it. And he said, and also what you're going to do is you're going to go over there and you're going to apologize to those guys. He said, Captain Dickey, you need to call them and find out when's a good time to come over there and you're going to apologize. I'm like, yes, sir. It's a well-deserved apology that they get. That's what I'm thinking. I don't want to make the story too long, but anyway. So, I do the whole saluting about face and I'm walking out and he goes, Neil. And I turn around and I was like, yes, sir. He's like, good job. I'm like, all right. And I turned around. I'm like, what the hell was that?
Those are appropriate Army shenanigans.
Well, come to find out, he hated those fixed wing guys. I didn't know that. So that's what Dickie told me afterwards. He's like, yeah, he don't like the fixed wing guys. I'm like, well, that's pretty wild. So there's more happening after that. But, this is already taking too long, so we'll just stop it there. So anything bad like that happened to you while we were in Texas?
I was paranoid about getting in trouble. Like I said, I was goody two shoes in high school. I was goody two shoes in the Army too for a long time. But then that kind of turned into reasonable discipline as opposed to goody two shoes kind of stuff. Like I did stuff when it was necessary and right, but like I didn't get in much trouble.
Yeah. I don't remember you ever getting in trouble.
Not really. I fought Mike Tomlin once, but other than that.
Oh, that was a wrestling match. Man, I remember that. Where was that?
We were in Hohenfels, and
that's right. That's right.
He threw mud at Herman Sanchez, and it missed Herman and hit me, and I lost it and started shoving his face in the mud. That was probably the worst.
That's pretty good. We might be going to go see Mace in August.
Really?
So I'm going to pick up Charlie from Mississippi and go, and I think Mike's going to meet us on the way.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go to Mace in August, I think.
Where's he at now?
He's in Kansas, man.
I thought, wasn't he in the Coast Guard?
He was.
He was?
Yeah.
I assume he retired by now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's, to be honest with you, I don't know what he does. I know he does some kind of bigwig thing. I'm not sure what it is, but I know he's super busy all the time. Matter of fact, that's been a problem, getting us scheduled because his schedule. He's just gone all the time. And of course he got 9,000 kids and stuff. So.
That's one thing. Like I wanted my retirement from the Army to be my leisurely retirement. It's anything but, man. I'm busier now than I ever have been. It's ridiculous. I spend more time at home. I'm always doing something. Like
self-induced stress.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And home ownership is its own monster. And then hobbies and kids and this and that and the other. And I got friends that live a mile down the road. And I'm like, I'll see you in, I don't know, maybe a month. I don't know, Yeah. It's hell, you're what, 20 minutes down the road.
If that.
This is the second time I've seen you in 4 years.
4 years, right?
Since I've been here.
Well, I think the second time was actually when
I picked up wood.
yeah, it's the first time.
Yeah, first time.
Second time was in the office. There.
Yeah, in the office.
I came
yeah.
by and said, hey, man, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, that's cool. So one of the reasons, I wanted to have you on, not that, just to talk about all this other stuff, was, we've had probably, oh, man, 2 or 3 discussions of this whole, Iraq thing that went on, but we've never had a perspective of Euro's perspective. And I know there was a touched on a little bit with the documentary, but, that was like with everybody, there was maybe 10, 15 seconds of here and there. But I'm trying to, we've talked about this numerous times, but I'm just trying to give the audience, if you can describe. And what we're talking about is when we left Germany and went to Kuwait, as we were pushing up north, our whole unit that wasn't in an aircraft were traveling in Humvees, bicycles. And so the Humvees were like, they weren't up armored at all.
These were soft side vehicles. We had deuce and a halves and, M998 Humvees, troop carriers, and 4-packs. Like we had 7 crew chiefs, 2 platoon sergeants, and the first sergeant. Mm-hmm. Like that was the enlisted section of our troop, right? And that was broken up between a 4-pack Humvee, a troop carrier Humvee, and a deuce and a half. And that's how we moved our troop. If it didn't fit in those 3 trucks, it didn't go.
Yeah.
So we had a couple of like stay behind containers that had some other equipment in it, but all of our tents, all of our cots, all of our clothes, all of our everything, tools, all that stuff had to be in those trucks with us. And we did on the drive back from Balad to Kuwait, we did 499 miles, I think, in 2 days. Mm. I have no idea what the actual distance was to Vicksburg from.
So obviously, Balad was north of Baghdad, and we were from where we were at in Kuwait to T.A. Rams or Vicksburg, whatever you want to call it. That was about almost halfway between where we were in Kuwait and Baghdad.
Oh, really?
I think we were probably maybe 30 miles. Well, actually, it was probably further north, not halfway, but it was probably like 30 miles south of Baghdad. That's where we initially was.
And it took
but I know it was like 3 days, right?
4 days. Yeah, 4 days to get there. Yeah. So we rolled out of Udari, I want to say like the 19th, 18th or 19th, something like that, and hung a left and started going north, and we weren't 100 yards out of the gate when we had stuff falling off our truck. Somebody flipped a trailer over. Nothing was paved.
Yeah, so as I was getting ready to say, the terrain was.
Yeah, it was open desert, and we had pluggers at the time. Right, there's paper maps do you no good because go north, young man.
Terrain, yeah.
So we had pluggers, and I remember Ross spent, I don't know, hours and hours plugging in all the waypoints in the plugger. And not every vehicle's got one, so we're following the guy in front of us. And we got out the gate and the batteries died on it or something and dropped all the waypoints. So we're like standing on top of the because we lost stuff off the trailer. So we had to, tie stuff back on the truck. And meanwhile, the convoy just left because every man for themselves. No, you figure it out. You've got waypoints, but we didn't. Yeah. So we're standing on top of the trucks. We finally see the dust cloud and we, haul butt and catch up with the rest of the convoy. But we made it up to the border pretty easily and then stopped. Like we were at the border for hours and I think overnight. Did we overnight there? I don't remember. That was like the safest place that we stayed the night on that whole trip. Yeah. Whoever planned that convoy was like, hey, that place looks scary. We should probably stop here for the night and let these stupid aviation guys pull security on their own vehicles in hostile territory. But yeah, we got to the border and just sat there and waited. And like half the army was on our left. And then like later on, the other half showed up while I was over my cat hole. Like the rest of the army pulls up on the right-hand side. And then they started feeding us through. And I might have been driving then. I ended up driving. I drove for almost 24 hours straight. And driving was that's a loose word because it was like we would go for 20 minutes and then stop for an unknown amount of time and then go again and stop and then go and we'll do like an 8-hour stretch and then fuel. And that was that was miserable. Probably like one of the most miserable times of my entire
sure.
existence was because we're in mop gear. So we've got our chemical suits on and we had flak vests, the old Vietnam flak vests and the big heavy Kevlars at the time. And I'm wearing nods because I'm driving and we're trying to drive at night. People are going the other way for some reason with white lights on. And at one point, like we were navigating by tail lights. Like that's all you could see was the lights in front of you. And, all that dust is like talcum powder, so it was blowing up everywhere. And we ended up in the middle of somebody else's convoy that had like herringboned across, the road. There was an Abrams flipped over on fire and we're flying through there like 40 mile an hour. It was absolutely insane what we were doing.
I remember you guys had got up to like either the middle or the point of the convoy, didn't you?
No, I'm pretty sure at one point I was the farthest conventional soldier in Iraq. we had no radio and we didn't have radios in every truck. Like this was pre-war on terror, like equipment, right? Yep. We had like 2 sets of nods for the entire troop, so somebody's driving without nods. Yeah. And not every truck had a radio. We didn't have, the walkie-talkies.
The stuff that you have when you're in combat.
Well, because we're a stupid aviation unit. Why would we need that stuff? Aviation units don't convoy, we were told. So we had I'm driving along and I have no idea what's going on. And there's no communication with the convoy commander or whatever. So you're just literally following the vehicle in front of you.
So it was just the 3 vehicles for Bravo Troop.
For Bravo Troop, yeah.
So was there contact with everybody else or was it just you guys kind of like on your own?
No, we were there was hundreds of vehicles in that convoy.
Well, what I mean by on your own, like anybody else in our squadron, was you next to like Alpha?
Yeah. So it was our squadron convoy. Okay. Because we had the whole task force kind of rolled together. It was us 227 and 26 all going, plus the AVIM that we had. Gotcha. So we were all like in 3 chocks. Okay. I think it was 3. But they were hundreds of vehicles long, because that is the entire task force moving up there, except for you guys who, you flew 40 minutes and you were there and then hung out in the desert and nothing really happened, right?
Man, it was wait a minute, man. It was like an hour and 15 minutes, all right?
So we at one point, we saw Kiowas in this city, right, off to our right, and there's Kiowas shooting rockets and stuff, and these MLRSs are going off and going over our heads, and we're driving along, and there's kind of like a roadblock of Army vehicles, right? I think it was 10th Mountain was across the road, and we just go right through.
What are you all doing?
And we learned you could tell how far forward you were by how much trash was on the side of the road. So if you don't see MRE trash and stuff on the side of the road, you're in a bad position. So we're driving along and there's no trash and there's nobody around us. And somebody gets a call on the radio, stop. You're forward of the line of troops. And we're like, what? So we're just kind of hanging out there, flapping in the wind. Yeah. So I'm like, Derek likes my platoon sergeant, who was my TC. He's like, there's nobody ahead of us. It's just us. Yeah. So I jump out of the Humvee and I run to the front of the convoy. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just got to be the front. So I'm like, tip of the spear, run up to the front and then run all the way back to the Humvee because I'm an idiot. We took things for granted back then. They were still kind of happy we were there. Our IEDs weren't a thing yet. And it's eventually we stayed there because we weren't too far ahead of them. And then the security force and stuff came up around us. And every single time we would get passed by a ground unit, they would get attacked. Every time, guys, you might not want to go up there. And then sure enough, they would get attacked and we would sit there and wait for them to say it was clear and whatever. But it was always in scary places. And we would pull up to these towns at night. And like I said, we've got 2 pairs of NVGs, but everybody's got, we're all wired tight and, nobody's sleeping. And you've been there when you're in the desert and there's no moon, it's black, but there's houses right there and we can't see them. And it was Kirsch, he was the other saw gunner. And he's got the nods on. He's like, dude, there's like 10 guys in that house. There's dudes on the roof. They've all got AKs. And we're like, I'm at the front of the Humvee. He's at the back. We're loaded for bear and we're ready to rock. But it's just dudes at their house, you know? And they're like, hey, I would go out and look at these guys. Yeah, I would look at these idiots going by too. But we stayed there that night. And
how can you see where they're going?
We had the BCT rolled by us and they stopped and they're like, hey, you guys have right side security. You know where the town was? On the right. That's where it was. They were on the left in their Bradleys sleeping, and we're in Humvees and deuce and a halves and stuff. Yeah. And they eventually rolled out in the middle of the night and got hit. Like, and I'll never forget, we were sitting in the back of the Humvee, and I smoked back then. And Derek comes back. He's like, there's an ambush ahead. We know it's there. We're just going to blow through. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Great plan.
This is great. We're in soft Humvees. So we took like our toolboxes and stuff and we put them on the side, you know, in the troop carrier, we lined the sides with our toolboxes and everything we could stack up, we stacked up and we crunched down on the sandbags. And I'm laying there just like, this is how it goes. You know, this is how I go out. And the worst part about it for me was the helplessness that I couldn't fight back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to drive through and get shot at, you know? And I was like, hey, man, can I smoke in the truck? He's like, sure thing, Curves. Go ahead. So I'm back there smoking in the truck. And we start rolling. Like, and I'm like, it was the first time I'd really kind of come to grips with my own mortality. Like, I could die right now. But we roll through and nothing happened, you know? So we just kept rolling. But that happened three times. They're like, hey, we might be something up ahead and we just need to go. After I had driven that stretch for like 24 hours or what it was, I jumped in the back of the truck and we had a litter, you know, every third vehicle or whatever had a litter in it and, you know, your first aid kits and all that kind of good stuff. And I crawled in the back and I laid on that litter and I slept for like 7 hours. Like I was just dead. And I wake up and we're stopped. And we're in a city. I don't know what it was. I don't know where the city was. And it wasn't a big city, but there was a couple hundred people. Like we're in the square and there's these people just everywhere. And like just one bad dude in there that doesn't want us to be there. And there's nothing we could do. And like our Humvee, we had me and Kirsch, we both had saws. We had 2 AT4s. We had a 203. We had all the ammo for all of that. And we had like 2 boxes of grenades. And I'm looking at Kirsch. I'm like, if it goes, man, we're just doing it. But they were all happy we were there and stuff, you know, at that time when we first rolled in. So, but that, like, I still don't like crowds to this day because of that day. Like, I just woke up and I'm just Kirsch was smacking me. He's like, get up, dude, get up. And I look and there's just people everywhere. We're stopped because of the people. And they're reaching into the vehicles and stuff. And like, man, this is not what I signed up for at all. I'm supposed to be on an airfield in the air conditioning, right? Waiting for aircraft to come back. That's right. And here I am in a stupid truck.
I don't think it's kind of amazing that you can sleep for 7 hours with MOP 3, I guess, dude, or whatever. I mean, this was March, right?
Yeah.
So it's not cool.
No, it's 90s, right? Like you just learn to be hot, I guess. And the one thing that the Army really did good for me is teaching me to be uncomfortable. Like if I'm not in physical pain or dying, you know, I could deal with it. Not anymore. I'm a complete puss now. Like it's got to be 70 degrees.
It's 72 in here, man.
Like,
holy shit!
I can't sleep unless I'm in my bed with my pillows and a fan going and stuff. Yeah. But like back then, I was 21. I just turned 21 in February, and I could sleep anywhere. I could sleep standing up if I needed to, and I did a lot of times. But it was just god awful, man. I had left my one of my bags is one of the ones that fell off, my rucksack, right? When I deployed, I had the old green duffel bag and a small ruck, not a medium ruck. Yeah. A small, that's all I got to pack, right? So the ruck was supposed to be tied on the side of the truck or on the trailer or whatever, so we could access it. And mine ended up getting shoved in the back of the deuce and a half or something. So that whole 4 days, I did not change my socks or underwear the entire time.
We don't need this part. We'll edit this out.
We finally got to where we were going there at Rams. I took my boots off in the tent, and everybody started gagging. Derek made me go bury my socks outside. It was that bad. It was terrible, man. Like it was the best, worst time I've ever had, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes completely sense.
Like,
it was so miserable, but at the same time, it was funny as hell. There was so much funny shit that you'd be like, why are y'all laughing? I'm like, man, it's,
it's that or go crazy. Like
like when they told us we were getting ran over, overrun by the tank brigade or whatever it was, and everybody's out there at 9 mils, get in the holes. I'm like, I'm just looking at them like,
and we're aimed right at 227 guys.
Yeah, I'm like, we're the stupidest people in the world. How do we win wars?
To this day, I don't know. Well, we haven't since,
So you travel for 4 days. You get up and you see the aircraft. Did you get there at that night, or was it during?
No, we rolled up early morning. I think.
So was you there when we pulled in or not? I can't remember.
No, so
this is the next morning.
This is the next morning. So you guys did the mission, and then we rolled up, and you guys were all in your folding chairs, kind of huddled around one of the aircraft, and we had no idea what had happened. Like, nobody told us anything.
No.
So the day before, we had seen you guys fly over, right?
And I think Mason talked to somebody that was on the ground. I think he talked to the first one, Derek, once.
Possibly, I don't. Again, I'm in the back of a truck. Yeah. Nobody tells us nothing. But we just saw, we had 21 aircraft back then, and 21 aircraft flying over. I'm like, war's over, baby. 6-6 is here. This is gonna be over in a week. This is awesome. And then we showed up to that just catastrophe that had happened. And I'll never forget. Like, I wanted to cry after seeing what you guys had been, because there's always the pilot crew chief, kind of rivalry thing where you guys are spoiled prima donnas that don't actually work, and meanwhile you would land, get out of the aircraft, be like, all right, bye guys, and then we're still there for another 4 hours, and so there was always that kind of rivalry. But we showed up and saw what you guys, we didn't know the extent yet, because we hadn't really started looking at the aircraft. But when Cornell had come up to me, because I had lent him my M4, I'm sorry, we didn't have M4s back then, M16, and it
was all bent.
It was the barrel was bent. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry, I fucked up your M16. I'm like, don't apologize for anything after what you guys did. But what do you mean? He's like, I'll show you. And he showed me the barrel had bent because he had put it in the aircraft beside him, and a round came in and deflected off the barrel. Instead of hitting him in the head, it hit the barrel and shattered and bent the barrel of the damn rifle. So
craziness.
For a period of time, I gave pilots a lot of slack.
for about 3 days.
And then Joe Hutchison was doing MRE bombs and stuff and doing his laundry with all of our bottled water, and I wanted to shoot him.
Yeah. Good times, man. I forgot all about that.
Oh, I didn't.
Well, the bad thing is it wasn't a day later that the dust storm came.
Oh yeah,
what they call them,
the Shamal.
Yeah,
that was it was like 2 or 3 days. I can't remember, because we rolled in, we got all of our tents up and all that kind of good stuff, and we kind of got a cursory look at the aircraft. Yeah, maybe it was the day after, the 2 days after, something like that. And because we didn't even know where 199 was for like a day.
Well, yeah, it was down by the rock quarry, like 10 miles away. Because Charlie was too scared to land anywhere. I ain't going in there.
I don't blame him, man.
Oh no, I'll tell you. I told him recently. That was probably the smartest thing you could have ever done, because that was the worst part of. Well, pretty close to the worst thing. It was flying back, getting in there, because everybody was coming back at the same time,
dude.
And it was just a big old dust bowl, and you're like, we're gonna die.
Yeah. the fact that nobody did.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like, was
crazy.
Because we didn't do like a JRT or an NTC or anything where I don't remember doing dust quals and that sort of stuff.
Well, our dust landings, we use snow up in Germany. It was like, this is kind of what it's going to be like, but no.
No, that was nowhere close to what it was like. I love that their solution, like, because
I want to hear your perspective of this. I know where you're going.
Okay. So every time you guys would take off and land, 10 miles of dust in the air.
Yeah.
So the first thing that they did, bless their hearts, was they went and stole a rock truck and made gravel pads. Great try.
Yeah.
Didn't work at all. So you'd still come in and off it goes. So the next solution was I got water, and they poured water on the pads.
Less than about 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes, it's gone.
100 degrees.
So the long-lasting solution was JP8. I'll never forget Sergeant Major Moten. He was our sergeant major at the time.
Yeah.
I parked the Humvee, and I pull the park brake, and I get out, and I'm walking away. He's like, excuse me, soldier. I'm like, hey, what's up, Sergeant Major? He's like, you're not going to put your chalk block and drip pan down? I was like, I look behind him, and there's a diesel, there's a fueler helmet spraying the desert with JP8. And I said, Sergeant Major, I said, do me a favor. Can you look over your left shoulder? And he looks, and I don't see what that has to do with the situation. So I went.
Dude, that's so typical Sergeant Major shit right there, man.
So I
My God.
chalked and drip panned the truck and went over. But if I don't end up with cancer, like, it'll be a miracle.
I don't see how anybody could have not gotten.
Dude,
I mean, for us, flying up at it, and kicking all the dust and breathing, that's one thing. But you guys were there in it for like 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day sometimes. Man, it was crazy.
Had to do, the literal puddles of diesel fuel on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do like rotations, like 15-minute tag-ins while we were doing maintenance, because Kirsch threw up and passed out.
Yeah.
Like, he's up on the wing and just down he goes, because you're just standing in a cloud of JP8, and then you guys would take off, and we're just breathing it in. We did our stupid post-deployment health assessments, and they're like, do you have any concerns? I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, no, it's fine. It'll clear out one of your lungs. You'll be okay.
Right.
No problem. So coincidentally, I had bronchitis this last couple of months, and I went and I got a chest x-ray. I'm good. So far, there's nothing in the lungs. It didn't help that I smoked, at the time, but that certainly breathing JP8 for 2 months didn't help either.
Yeah.
That was like,
well, your lungs wouldn't have, it would have something to do with it, but that stuff being in your bloodstream, I would think it,
we've lost
cancer causing. They even say, there's little warnings on little stamps on the side of gasoline.
Yeah.
Don't breathe, could cause cancer.
Don't breathe, it causes cancer. I know I've had a few friends that ended up with cancer. Franks, he was one of the Alpha Troop guys. Yeah. He died, I've lost, 3 or 4 friends from cancer in the Army. I know cancer is a leading cause of death in the United States, but it's a higher percentage for us.
Yeah.
And, because that's one of my big fears is that one day I'm going to start coughing weird and then go to the doctor and be like, oh yeah, it's terminal and you're going to be done. Yay.
Yeah. So we spent 3-4 weeks there,
or an eternity, depending upon
because we were going home from there. If you remember,
I do remember.
We were going home. Because 26 had jumped back, and 227 was like, well, shit, man. 1, 2, 3, 3.
Let's go.
For the next one. We left all right. we didn't sit there. So that's one of the things we talked about with Charlie. There it was, hey, we're going back. And then, you're going to Blod because it's real backed up. It's going to be 3 months. Probably.
But see, I didn't know any of that.
Okay.
They were just like, hey, we're jumping. I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, we're going forward to Balad, to an air base. I'm like, oh, pavement, sweet. That'll be great. And then.
Oh, I knew right then that was bullshit. I was like, nah, I know what's going on here. Yeah, because they told us when we left Vicksburg, we were waiting to go back to Kuwait. That's what we were told from the leadership. And
see, they were smart to keep us naive.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing, because that messed with my mind more than anything.
When we
went to Balad, it was supposed to be there for 3 months.
Yeah,
and then after 3 months come, they said, oh no, 6 months. And then 6 months, I don't know if you remember this or not.
I do.
But Wolf was like, hey, I'll see you guys back in Germany. You guys going back soon? And the next day, dude pops in, hey, buckle in, man. There's 6 months.
For another 6 months.
Y'all kiss my ass, man.
Dude, so that was, remember I said we had 7 dudes, right? Yeah. 7 crew chiefs. That was it. I worked nights for a lot of it, which was terrible because we didn't have air conditioning at all. So trying to sleep during the day was just brutal. I'm pretty sure I lost my mind at one point during that deployment because I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I would have periods of unconsciousness, but I didn't sleep because I would, aluminum cot, and we were in GP medium. We'd have the sides rolled up. It's 100 and fuck degrees outside.
Yeah.
So I would just dump a 5-gallon bucket of water in my head and lay down. And then when that evaporated
You wake back up.
and you accidentally touch the side of the cot and got a 2nd-degree burn on your arm, you wake up. So I didn't sleep for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And, but we're leaving soon, right? We're leaving in a couple of months or a couple of weeks. I had guard duty. Like we had roving guard. We have 7 crew chiefs. We're flying 24 hours a day. I've got 1 guy on KP, 1 guy on ship burner detail, 2 guys on roving guard for 3 hours a night. And there's like 3 guys working like at any given time.
Yeah.
So I'm ranking up for roving guard and they came in, they're like, hey, remember how we were going to leave? Well, we're not anymore. And I lost my shit. I had a locker. I stole a locker from some building somewhere, and that's where I kept my stuff. I dented the door. I punched. How I didn't break my hand, I don't know. I was so damn mad. I didn't know what to do with myself. Then I went and walked in the dark for 3 hours to calm down. Oh my God, it was awful. And then we were getting mortared like every other day. Like clockwork. Gee, it's amazing what the human mind can just become accustomed to. You know what I mean?
It was almost like a game.
Yeah.
I got to almost like, I wonder where this is going to go. Be taking bets. I think it's going to be $5, $5 on the chow.
It's so the worst one I experienced. I was walking out. We had built showers, right? Remember, Top had like networked with these engineers and stuff, and they built us these showers. And I'm walking out. I'm in my shower shoes and PT shorts, and I'm walking, and I hear it, dum dum dum. Shit, like. I'm in the. There's nothing around.
At least
me.
I'll be clean.
No, I hadn't got to the shower yet. Okay. So I'm like, do I run? Do I just stand here? And then, they blew up somewhere away from me. I'm like, okay. So I just kept walking to the shower. That is not normal human behavior at all.
Remember Todd O'Donnell almost got hit in the face with a.
No. So what happened? I'm out on the flight line, right? And so the mortars, the rockets come in, whatever they were. And we hear O'Donnell's hit. Yeah. So he's 1 hour. So we book it, right? We come in, he got a pebble.
It was like a little scratch. It was like like a cat scratch. He's like, man, I got hit.
Yeah, Mr. O'Donnell got hit in the face, man. Oh my God.
That's pretty funny. Oh, it hit our generator too.
You know when it hit our generator?
I think that was the same.
That was about a week after we got our air conditioner.
Yeah.
And we got the air conditioner. Yeah. We had that big, I don't remember how big the damn thing was, but we had that giant air conditioner and we didn't have a generator to run it.
Right.
And then they finally bring in the big air conditioner. I'm on nights and like I slept for a week and then they hit our generator and I almost killed myself. Like I can't do this again.
I didn't really I didn't think of stuff like that happening as being, it was a bad thing, but I was like, okay, well, they got another one. I'm just going to put it in there. Same thing as the chow hall down in Kuwait. I was like, well, I ain't no big, that's pretty funny. No big deal. Just going to put something back the next day.
When did that second chow hall show up,
like
Bill?
6 months later. after we were gone. Back. Actually, we'd gone down there for something
we did gunnery.
Yeah, that's right.
We drove to Kuwait.
Yeah, right.
In the middle of a war.
Yeah, man.
To do a gunnery, Bill.
I forgot all about that.
And then drove back. So to prep for this, right? Because we know we're convoying back.
How stupid are we?
We started doing in the mid. Okay, remember 7 guys, right? 7 guys, 7 aircraft, right? 1 guy on KP, 1 guy on ship burner detail, 2 guys on guard at night for 3 hours a night, right? So that's 2 guys out during the day, right? Automatically. We decide as a unit, and I'm not judging my leadership back then.
Oh, you should.
I love those. I loved my squadron. I really did.
Oh, I agree 100%. And a lot of their decisions that were made probably wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't theirs.
But and I'm not going to judge because I have been a leader as well, and I have made poor decisions. It happens. You think you're doing right at the time. Hindsight's 20/20. Maybe we did need it. I don't know. But they're like, we're going to...
I can tell you we did. We didn't do that at all. Matter of fact, it took out a combat effectiveness to go shoot gunnery.
Shoot gunnery because you got to stay current. I know. I remember.
It was like 6 weeks or a month or something like that. I'm like, this is stupid.
Because the troops are rotating down.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So to prepare for this convoy, we started doing convoy training.
Right. How many convoys have you done up to that
Dude,
point?
oh my
thousands.
God. So again, first Sergeant Lemke, right?
Yeah.
He hornswoggled with these engineers and stuff, and he was going all over post, building us an up-armored Humvee.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you remember it, or I don't know if you remember it.
I remember.
We
It's
had
like an inch quarter,
like
inch thick plates.
on the side with the little windows cut
It
out.
didn't even have any suspension anymore because it was smashed on the ground.
We had 2 saw mounts.
Yeah.
We added in the back of it because there was no such thing as a gun truck back then, right?
Yep.
So we have to go. We did it like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 times. We convoyed to this made up range that we made and did convoy live fire training to prepare to go to Kuwait to do gunnery. And so we had to be convoy proficient before we got there. And me and Lang were the gunners. We both had saws. So we were being the gun truck and we would run up and down the convoy and secure intersections and stuff, right? So one of the times we did it, we have to drive through cities, to get to this range. And there's hundreds and hundreds of square miles of desert around us, but we got to go to this special place. So we drive into the special place. We pull up, we secure the intersection. Me and Lang had it down to science. We pull the pins on the mounts, jump out. You get there, I get there. Truck's blocking this way, and then here go the vehicles, right? Well, I'm blocking like 4 or 5 lanes, and you know how the Iraqis drove, and I'm a kid. I'm scared to death, and they're not stopping. Right? They stop, and then they keep creeping up. I'm like, Top, they're not stopping, man. What do I do? He's like, if they get too close, shoot them. I'm like, I'm going to murder all these people for a stupid convoy live fire exercise. And then here comes, we did have an Apache overhead. It was Ron Thompson, right? And he flies right over, flares up over the intersection. He's hovering 50 feet above me. And the 30's swiveling back and forth. Cars are backing up, hitting each other. It was complete chaos. But it was fantastic, man. And we got in the vehicle and rolled on through. But yeah, we drove back. I did that trip 3 times. 4 times. Four times, yeah. Up, back. Yeah, 4 times. I did that drive. How
So
fun.
if it was 3 or 4 days to get up to Vicksburg, how many days was it to get from Balad? Well, it probably might have been a lot quicker since it wasn't all.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because we had like established routes then. And we had Route Tampa, I think was the main route or whatever it was that went. But yeah, dude, it was miserable. Stupid. So how we didn't lose anybody, I don't know. I really don't.
We did. But
Well, we did, but that wasn't combat related.
Right.
That was safety, which that's what gets most people anymore.
So how was the rest of your career after that? I mean, comparing all the other units you'd been to.
So
Well, I know you said only 2, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as back then, that 3 years were you together or so?
yeah,
You're probably there
I was
longer,
there. I
right?
was there to 05.
Okay.
Yeah, I stayed in Germany to 2005. Yeah, because I re-upped to do an extra year in Germany.
Gotcha.
And that's where I met Heather when she showed up, my wife, and so I stayed there a year with her, and then went back to Hood to do UFTP again.
Okay.
Which was super fun. And we were supposed to be.
What unit was that?
So it started. We were 1-1 Aviation, right out of Riley.
Okay.
Oh no, they weren't out of Riley. They were out of Germany. They were.
Oh, that's right.
They were coming to do UFTP and then go to Fort Riley, right?
Okay.
So we started our UFTP and stuff, and guys were already buying houses at Fort Riley because that's where we're going. And then they're like, "Wait, pause. You're going to reflag to 3rd ACR." 3rd ACR moved from Carson out to Hood, divested of a bunch of stuff, and we were 4-3, right? So I deployed with 4-3 in 07-09. That was Todd Royer was our commander back then. So that was my 15-month deployment with my wife. So if you ever get the opportunity to deploy with your spouse, don't. It was horrible, and she will tell you the same. Because the only time we ever saw each other, we were at work. And so it was Sergeant Kerfman and Sergeant Kerfman. And there was no time to be husband and wife. And there was no, I have a shitty day and you have a shitty day. And then we get back to the chew and we're just mad at each other. And remember Ross?
Yeah.
So he was her squad leader, and he thought it was funny. He would shift her shift to the exact opposite of mine. So whatever shift I was on, she was on the opposite. And so I wouldn't get to see her at all, like ever. She would be like the only person on the shift because I was on a different shift. So thanks, Ross. Appreciate that. But
well, that didn't stop Duran. Anyway.
How fast was he to claim that kid too, right?
Yeah. I mean, how could you tell?
She's like, she's pregnant. It's mine. I did it. Like, why would you fess
so
up
did a bunch of other people. How do you know?
Goodness.
So we digress.
Yeah. Inside story.
So I guess you were ready to retire when you retired. There was no...
No.
Let's stay a little bit longer. Did your wife go 22 or?
No, so she did 8. She did her full 8.
Gotcha.
She got out in 2011 while I was deployed again. So I did 03 to 04, 08 to 07, 09. I shut down Iraq. So in 2011, I was there at Talil. And if you watch the news, they're like, the Iraq war is officially over. And they like showed a convoy leaving. I wasn't on the convoy, but that was our unit, right? We were the last aviation people in theater. And we like jumped on a C-130 and like the Air Force, the PAX terminal there, they got on the same plane with us and took off. Like there was nobody left. So yeah, Iraq in 11, that's when she got out and I was done. Like I was, man, that deployment was horrible. And it wasn't like, it was austere, but not like 03. You know what I mean? Like we were used to a certain way of life and then they just pulled out all the civilian support. And like, we were trying to make these big giant, Connex size generators keep working.
Right.
And they dropped off like 4 pallets of water and like, that's what you got until you don't have water anymore. Like eating 1 MRE, a day, like it sucked. But in the middle of that, I was done. Like I didn't want to be in the Army anymore. I was not having fun. And so I'm talking to the wife about it. And she's like, well, I'm looking, and I was going to get out and I want to go to work at Letterkenny Army Depot, right in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It's right where I grew up. It's about an hour from my house. And I could work on ag poos and, all stuff I was familiar with. I do like MTADS repair and stuff there. I'm like, perfect, but I didn't know anything about how to get a job or how to find those jobs. So I couldn't really find what I was looking for. And I was telling Heather, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to do. And she's like, well, I've been looking and dental insurance is like $600 a month. And she's like, we're either going to have teeth or live in a house. I don't know how we do both. And I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. And then Jeff Crawford. Did you ever meet Jeff Crawford?
That name sounds probably not, if I saw his face, I remember.
So Jeff's this hot. Jeff, you're this tall. Like he would need a booster for this table. It's a very short man, but I love him to death. Right? I worked for that man for a good long time, and I respected him a lot. He was one of those guys. Like I thought he was a robot because he never slept. Like at any given time, you could find him on the flight line and he's talking to Joe's. Like he was a hell of a good leader, just a really good leader. And they told us while we were deployed, they're like, hey, we're doing a BRAC realignment with the unit. When we get back, the whole unit's moving to JBLM Washington. I'm like, good God. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm out. This is 2011. I was going to be at my enlistment ended in 2012. I was going to do 12 years and I'd be done. And he comes to me and he's like, Kerf, I want you to take over PC. And because I was a maintenance platoon sergeant at the time. And he's like, I want you to take over PC and take the unit to JBLM. You're the only guy I want for the job.
So those of you who don't know, PC is production control.
And it's the worst job. It might be
the worst job. But
no, it's actually the best. Like I love that job.
Yeah, one of the most prestigious too.
Yeah. And it's like you as PC, I was a staff sergeant at the time. And I was a staff sergeant at the time. And I'm responsible for the maintenance flow, coordinating all the maintenance. And I've got all the responsibility and none of the authority. Because if I can't tell a company commander to do a thing, you know what I mean? So PC is a very stressful job, but he's like, you're the only one I want for the job. Will you consider staying? And I was like, if I reenlist again, I'm going to be, over 10 years needs of the Army. Right. I said, as soon as I sign that dotted line, they're coming for me. You got to know that. He's like, we'll shoot it down. I promise you, you will not leave this unit. And now I've been in that unit since 2005. This is now 2011. Right. So we had reflagged a couple of times, but that didn't count as a PCS. So I did it. I talked to Heather. I'm like, this is going to put me into retirement. And she's like, okay, if you think you're good with it, I'll do it too. And I'm like, I'm doing this for you, Jeff. Like, you're the reason I'm doing it. So John Ivy, remember John? Yeah. So he was there with us. He was our PC officer. And I'm like, me and John working together, this couldn't go wrong. This will be great. So they started like grooming me, and I took over night PC and then took over day PC while we were there, and moved the unit back to Fort Hood. And then we were there for a couple of weeks, and first sergeant comes in.
You always get stuff in the writing.
I know.
I think I can tell where this is going.
So first sergeant comes in one day, and he's not happy. And I'm like, hey, what's up, Top? He's like, check your email yet? I said, no, why? He goes, check your email. So I look, recruiting orders, DA select recruiter. And if anybody knows anything about recruiting, once you're locked in, you're in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit. So I sent an email to Colonel Crawford. I was like, hey, check it out. I'm leaving. And he's like, I never even thought about this. Like, because I didn't have a TDA job up until that point. And he's like, never even crossed my mind, Curve. He's like, don't worry. We'll take care of it. I'm like, sir, you can't get out of recruiting. You can't. And he's like, we will fight for you. I'm like, okay. But I'm already starting the process, like filling out the forms and stuff online. Told Heather, like, I'm going to be a recruiter, maybe if it goes, because they had like full-time recruiters at that point where you could volunteer to do that. And I'm like, maybe if it's good, maybe that's what we'll do. Like if we get somewhere good, we'll just be recruiters. That's what we'll do. So I am fully resigned to this. Never called branch once because I knew that was suicide. So a couple, 3-4 weeks go by. I get a phone call at the office. It's the branch manager. He's like, what is going on?
Tell your colonel to quit calling me.
and I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I get a phone call about you every day. I've had a 2-star general call me. It might have been Tim Edens. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's like, I've had people calling me every day asking me to take you off recruiting and leave you there. And I'm like, I appreciate them doing that. I didn't ask him to, but then he's like, what do you want? I said, to be honest, I want to stay. I said, the only reason I reenlisted was to stay here, take the unit to JBLM. And this is the job I've always.
And that's what I was promised.
And that's what I didn't say, I'm like, I said, but I get it. E6 over 10 needs of the Army. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm not upset with you at all. You're doing your job. He's like, give me an hour. I'm like, okay. So an hour later, he calls back. He's like, check your email. You're welcome. I was off. Like, no more recruiting orders. Everything was canceled, and I got to stay there. So I stayed in that unit from 2005 to 2015, 15 or 16, I think. And we reflagged a couple of times. We were 3rd ACR, and then we flagged the 229th, and we moved to JBLM. And yeah, I was in there for 11 years. I think I was in that same unit.
That's like unheard of.
I know, right? And like, I rewrote every SOP. Like in
the one that you did 5 years prior.
No, so I started out. I was an idiot. I'm like, this is my unit because I wrote every SOP as I got into the job.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is stupid, and I think this is how this should work. And everybody's too lazy to rewrite an SOP, so I made them all
or read it before they sign it. Looks good, man.
and Jeff Crawford we went to JBLM together, and he was there for a year or so with us. And that's when we fielded the E models out of there and went to Afghanistan from JBLM, which was a good time. That deployment, I worked harder on that deployment than I ever have. We had,
I'm sure. Yeah.
In 7 months, we did 5,300 hours as a troop, as a company. I ended up borrowing aircraft.
Was it just Apaches?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was E models too. This was 2014 when they had we had just fielded them, right? So the logistics chain wasn't really there yet, and we were still kind of working the bugs out of it. We shouldn't have deployed, but we did because we got to sell helicopters. I should talk. That's what I do for a living. Now.
You talking about rolling your eyes? I'll see you too embarrassed when you go to the ATM machine.
No, I am morally conflicted, but they pay me enough not to pay too much attention to it.
Right.
But yeah, man, that one I had by the end I had 11 or 12 aircraft, I think, just in my company because of the way the mission set was worked out. You know, we had one company was off with like 5 aircraft, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of is when I showed up to Afghanistan. I can't remember who we were replacing, but their mission set, the way they had it broken out was like really inefficient, right? And I sat down and I worked on it for about a week. I was like, you know, if we could minimize the amount of aircraft we need, if we break it up like this, you know, they get these missions and I get these missions, and those guys go over there. And I presented it to the leadership. I was like, hey, this is my idea. This is why I think it'll work. And they're like, yeah, that makes complete sense. And that's what they went with. Like I rewrote the mission schedule for the whole, you know, area of operations, which was, I was pretty proud of that. But what it meant was
You had the manager.
I think I had like 5 mission lines a day, and it was 2 aircraft per mission line. I had to have a minimum of 7 working aircraft to make mission every day. But we never dropped the mission. That whole 7 months we were flying there, never dropped the mission once. So that was, my guys killed it, man. By the end of it, I was kind of worked myself out of a job, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Where my sergeants were kind of handling everything, and me and the other platoon sergeant were on opposite shifts, so that we split their shift. So everybody got a little bit of mom, and everybody got a little bit of dad. Yeah. I was mom. I was the other. I'm not a very good hard ass, except when I get mad. Vega, my other platoon sergeant, unfortunately he's passed. He was dad. Like he was a hard ass all the time, but the guys loved him. It was bananas. Like he was such an asshole, but like, oh man, don't take me off this shift. I love Sergeant Vega, man. Okay. But yeah, that was a good deployment. That was my last deployment. Thankfully. I did a career rotation, which sucked a whole bunch because that was 9 months in Korea, like living in the barracks, you know, like the whole unit lives in the barracks. And dude, I lived in the senior barracks, and some of the shenanigans that go on.
I was in Okinawa was like that for about, I think it ended up being 7 months, and it's miserable.
Dude, it's horrible.
Because, you know, all those guys that, you know, when I was a sergeant at that time when I was there. And, you know, all the first sergeants and staff sergeants and gunnies, you know, after work, they go home, they're with their wives. Well, they're there. They ain't got nothing to get bored. You know, they got nobody to talk to. They're like, well, let's go fuck with these guys.
Let's go do this.
Well, hey, man, let's take a quick break real quick.
Okay.
And we'll come back and wrap it up.
All right.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. How the time you punched me in the face in Germany? You still don't remember that?
I think you had told me about that before.
I did tell you about that before. You were going to fight outside of graffitis.
Well, you saw them, did.
No. Well, all I saw was flick a cigarette at you, and I saw him.
I remember punching you.
I know, because you were hammered drunk, as was I, but you took a swing at him, and I was in the middle trying to break it up, and you punched me in the face instead of punching.
My bad.
I'm like, this, I'm leaving. You're like, wait, Curve, come back. What are you doing? And I walked my drunk ass home from graffitis. That's the night I passed out. I actually didn't make it home. I fell asleep in the field. Like dude.
How did I not know about this?
Because we were blackout drunk, like all of us.
Oh, you know what? That was on my way back home too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was checked out.
Yeah, we all were. And I was walking home, and I fell in a field, and I'm like, fuck it. I just laid there. But it got down there. It was like 40 degrees that night, and I'm covered in dew the next morning when I woke up.
Holy
Curve been found dead in the field in Illicide.
I was going to kill that son of a man. I remember being pissed off at him. I was mad at him in the bar. Because he was acting like an idiot. I'm like, hey, come on. You're
going to get us kicked out. And then
I was taking care of him. I'm like, all right, we're all leaving. No, you leaving nowhere. I'm like, come on, man. Let's go. And I'm walking back like this, and I kind of like look over here, and he's going, hitting my back. I'm like, so I just like, all right, wait till we get outside. We get outside. I'm like, what the?
I'm like, I don't want Bill to get in trouble.
Oh, I wouldn't have got in trouble because everybody hated him.
Everybody hated him.
That poor kid, man. I kind of feel bad now a little bit, but No, back then I didn't.
No, not at all. We put him on tower guard that one night. You were the commander. Jesus.
That kid just would not shut his mouth, man.
No, ever.
I'm like, I could, I even told him, I'm like, dude, I could never see myself being where you are at your young age and fucking talking like that. I said, I would have got my fucking ass kicked by every senior person there was. Enlisted war officer, didn't matter. We all would have stomped my ass if I was like you. You know what I mean?
That was one of the main reasons I never went to be a pilot. Like, I wanted to fly. I really, really did. And then people were like, you should go walking warrant. And I'm like, I was at E6, E7, and I'm like, the first time I show up as a W1 and some punk ass W3 gives me any type of about being a Woji bear or whatever, I'm going to kick him in the nuts.
Dude, it wasn't like, I didn't play that. Because, when I was, I was like 25, 20, when I was probably 27, 28 by the time I got to the first unit.
Yeah, you were already old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, yeah, they tried that shit with me when I first walked in there. I tell you exactly when it happened. Is what was that lieutenant? No, it might have been him. No. When we were at Hood, comes up and he's like, hey, Neil, you need to go in the bathroom, take another Woj with you. And he was the second lieutenant. Because you need to take another Woj with you and clean the bathroom. I'm like, let me tell you something, LT. Don't fucking ever call me a Woj again. That's the first thing. Second thing, I ain't fucking cleaning shit. I was like, I was getting ready to pick up staffs on the Marine Corps. You think I'm going to go in there and close? I said, that shit ain't happening. Oh, you think you're better than everybody? I'm like, I ain't fucking doing it. It doesn't matter if I think I'm better or anything. I'm like, I ain't fucking doing it. I did that shit for fucking 8 years. Have you ever cleaned up a bathroom, LT?
No, I made him cry in Kuwait because I was too mean to him.
He deserved it. He deserved it.
We had to have consideration of others training because made the LT cry.
He was I get it, man. He's trying to, whatever. But they're saying if you don't know what you're doing, you look for others for advice on how to do stuff. You don't just go in like, oh, you're going to do what I say. Well, we all know you're fucking stupid. Okay. So,
the leadership is, so I have learned leadership can't really be taught. You know what I mean?
It can, a little bit. If you have a good mentor, you can,
but so you have to have a mentor, right? And you have to understand that you have to be adaptable to your audience, right? Like, right. What I learned, that's one of the main things I learned in my years in the Army was what works for that dude.
Oh, sure.
Doesn't work for that guy. Right. And every once in a while you got to be that ass to that guy.
Oh, sure.
But
I get it.
And we expect people to like, well, you went to this leadership course, you know what you're doing now. And nobody it's very hard for somebody to say, I don't know, or somebody to say, I was wrong. And if you can learn to say either of those two things, or better yet, both of those things as a leader, your life gets a lot better and a lot easier. Like it.
Well, they knew from that point on, don't fucking come to me with bullshit. And we were in, how they had the commander's office and they had the little pilots thing over there. And they came in and said something. I forgot what it was, but I fucking high side, man. I was like, you motherfucker need to get the fuck out of my office. This is my office, LT. Or no, this is our. I'm like, this is my fucking office. Get the fuck out. Well, see what Captain Q says about this. I'm like, go get him. Go get him. Of course, he'd never come over. He's probably laughing at him. He's like, yeah, go tell him that again. Yeah.
Go tell Bill.
Now, I respected the hell out of the one kid that those two that replaced him.
No.
Real smart guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't actually go with us, did he?
No, didn't show up till we got back.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a good dude.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Was good.
Oh, yeah.
Good shit too. I liked.
So did I. A little spaz, but
not at the time. I didn't.
Sure.
But I grew into him. And we ran into each other. He ended up he was my company commander, my next unit. Like he showed up. I'm like, oh, this is going to go really good or really poorly. Yeah. One of the two. And then he was my S3 at one time, I think, and the battalion XO for a while. And then he kind of dropped off the radar. I don't know what happened there, but and then I ran into him again down at Rucker. I was down there for some god awful reason. I'm sorry, Novacell.
Oh,
Novacell.
Yeah,
that one, you know what? All the renaming and stuff, I'm fine with it, whatever. But that one I can get behind. Like, at least they picked the right dude to name it after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not Fort Liberty. Like, you couldn't find anybody. You couldn't find anybody from Bragg that was worth
I'll be
naming
honest
it
with you, I
after.
really haven't even paid attention to it.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I mean, as soon as I hear it, it's all automatically out of my mind, because I could fester on that pretty good. And I've learned over the years, getting older, to just
Yeah,
you know?
it's not worth fighting.
and that you know,
It's like a marriage.
10 years ago, I'd still be talking about it. You know, 5 years later,
the stuff that people get, like if it was Fort Neal,
right?
and then they changed the name, I could see getting mad about
Yeah,
it.
especially
Right?
if they changed it to Fort Kirkman.
Yeah.
Like, this is motherfuckers.
That's the special flight school. That's where all the special kids go.
Yeah, you would have done flight.
They fly short little,
Right.
short little.
You would have done good in flight school, man. And even, and believe me, man, when you get out, people, they can feel your experience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, if you would have went, as a, E4, E5, coming out of flight school, just you can tell somebody, nobody's going to come up to you and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
Kirkman, get on," we was recording all that. So maybe we can just edit all that.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is go ahead and end it up,
Okay.
and what you're doing now, and then we'll.
So I'm
the
a
cord.
international arms dealer currently.
You're not far from.
That's what I tell people when I ask what I do. So I'm working on the arsenal at the International Apache Product Office. I started out 4 years ago. I was the program integrator sustainment guy for the Dutch, so the Netherlands, which coincidentally, the first real flying Apache I ever saw was a Dutch aircraft. When we showed up for UFTP back at Fort Hood 100 years ago.
21st Cav.
Yeah, when we were with 21st Cav, they're like, "Hey, we need people to go guard this aircraft." And we're like, "Oh, I'll go. Well, it's an aircraft. I'm a Romeo. I'll go fix the damn thing." No idea what I'm doing, but we go out there in the field, and I'm like, "The hell is this? It's got weird stuff on the side of it, and this little rondelle." Yeah, it was a Dutch aircraft. I'm like, "Hey, sir, what's wrong?" He's like, "I don't know." Just like off he went. But yeah, so I worked for the Dutch program for a while. They were taking their D models and turning them into E models, and did that for 3 or 4 years. And now I got promoted. Now I'm the sustainment lead for the office. So I kind of oversee. I have oversight of all the programs, making sure, I help the guys get on contract and making sure they're meeting their timelines and that sort of stuff. And kind of more of a consultant now than like a worker bee sort of thing. I still do a lot of stuff, but yeah, I retired in 2020, and in 2019, we kind of needed to make a decision on what we were going to, what am I going to be when I grow up? And I'm married with 2 kids at that point. We had, my wife decided it was a good idea to have another baby. My son would have been 5, somewhere around there. I don't remember, 5 or 6. She wanted another kid. So mama wants, mama gets. And I had a baby in 2019, a year before I retire. Yeah. And I am terrified, right? Like I actually went to trucking school.
That's what I was going to do. No, I'm serious. Schrock did that.
Oh, really?
Schrock's
Schrock's truck driver?
Well, I don't. I think he only did it for like 2 or 3 years. I think he bought his own truck and everything. But I think I don't know. I just know he did it, but I think he got out.
It was like my ultimate fallback job. Plus, I want to learn how to drive a truck because I like driving stuff, and 18-wheelers are cool. So while we were at Drum in 2018, I'm like, I'm going to go to trucking school. My GI Bill will pay for it. And I learned I'm a CDLA license holder. And but we had to make a decision. And I'm like, there's lots of opportunity down in Alabama, down at Redstone. Heather had been down here for about 3 days when I was at a conference. Like, I flew in from Korea, and I was here for like 4 days, and my wife and son came down to visit. I'm like, look around, tell me what you think. And then I'm like, I can get a job there. I know I can get a job there. I know a couple of folks that don't think I'm an idiot, and they'll help. And, I'm sure we can get a job. And what we didn't know was to get a mortgage, like through USAA or like a VA loan. If you're within a year of your retirement date, they won't give you any money.
That's not true.
So
I did it.
If
they lied,
I'm not the only guy that ran into this
Really?
situation. So I had my.
Well, maybe that's why they didn't do it for you, because I did it back in 11. They were like, "We ain't never doing that again."
So they said if you had a letter of intent from an employer, we'll do it. But
Gotcha.
if you're within a year of your retirement date, all we'll go off of for your income. They'd give me a loan, but they're like, we'll calculate your retirement, your pension, and that's your income.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not going to get it done,
Yeah.
So we kind of hurried and bought a house. We found the one we like and made an offer on it, bought it. So I bought it a year before I ever retired, and then moved down here. I got the job. I got offered the job like the month before we moved from Fort Drum, New York.
Yeah.
Like I did my PMP training, program management professional, and I had applied for a bunch of jobs, and this is the one I really wanted. And I had an interview lined up, and then COVID hit. And while I was doing my PMP training, and they never got back to me. I'm like, okay, so I guess that's a dead end. And there was the day I had to take my PMP exam online at home, and I just finished and I passed. I'm like, yeah, this is great. This will help me get a job. And then phone rings, and it was a guy named Dave Miller. And he's like, hey, this is Dave Miller. I'm with the International Apache office. He's like, did we send you an offer letter? I said, no, sir. I was supposed to have an interview like 2 months ago. Nothing happened. He's like, oh man, we're sorry about that. We'll get you a letter by the end of the day. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we've totally, COVID and travel, all this kind of good stuff, man. So we're sorry about that. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just finished my PMP exam. He's like, oh, that's great. Yep, we'll send you the letter. And it was good, way more money I was making in the Army.
Sure.
Way more money I was making in the Army. So I took the job and came down here, and we moved during COVID. So we're down in Arab, and it was really hard to try and get like integrated into the community, because I know it wasn't very big down here, but my parents lived with us, and they moved from Pennsylvania. They live on the property with us. Dad's in his 70s, mom's was late 60s at the time, and we were trying to take the COVID stuff very seriously, and so we didn't make a lot of friends for like a year. The kids were all homeschooled, and we got a 2-year-old girl, and my son, like I'm going to go ahead and say it. I was a good NCO, and I'm a great teacher. Like I enjoy teaching people. I can't teach my son.
Yeah.
Like I'm not an elementary school teacher. I can't do it. If you can do it, God love you, because I cannot. And like, there was so many fights, and they had him doing like 9 hours of work a day. Like, this is insane. He was in first or second grade.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like go on the internet and find 4 reliable sources and write a paragraph about, the 2 houses of Congress. Like, come on, he's in first grade. So we fought a lot. And then, so we got him enrolled in Boy Scouts, which was good, because he met some more kids, and we got a little bit more established, and it's growing on us.
Sure.
It's where she's a Minnesotan, I'm a Pennsylvanian. So it's a totally different environment culturally and geographically. But the longer we're here, the more we're kind of setting down roots, and, we're making a lot of friends. Because, when you're in the Army, it's like you've got your Army friends, right? And, like, I'm only going to be here for a couple of years. So friend making is very aggressive. Like, cool, man, let's hang out. Like, we're friends now, and we're going to do that. And you're very accommodating towards your military friends, because what they've been through, how shitty it can be. And so if you need anything, I'm there. And we're very accepting of just complete strangers, right? It's not like that down here, like especially in the really small towns. If you weren't born in Arab, you'll never be an Arabian, right? It's like you will smile at you all day long. We'll be very polite, but you're never really going to be part of the community, because you didn't grow up here. So that's a little bit hard, but we're making a lot of more friends and in the surrounding area, but they're all imports. It's all, people from retired. We kind of gravitate towards each other without knowing it, And so we're making a lot more friends that used to be military or importer from different
You ever been to
areas.
Sears?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Alex is fantastic. His whole family, he took me on a tour of the kitchen one day. It was amazing.
So we got this Sunday, we got Alex on.
Oh, you do?
It'll be posted Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We were in a buddy of mine, Ryan Beagle. He was a lot like Bob Duffy, big, tall, loud guy, right? And I love Ryan to death. His family owns a vineyard in California, right? And it's called the Grapery. And Alex buys the cotton candy grapes.
He told me about you. He's like, there's another Apache pilot guy here in Arab somewhere. And I'm like, well, I'm sure there is. I said, but I don't know. He's like, well, blah. He was, he didn't actually say your name. He was going off. So he was going down the list with his phone, and he finally, I forgot to even tell you about that, but he pulled up your phone. Oh my God, it's Curveman. I'm like, yeah, I know him.
But we were Ryan Beagle. He lives in California, but he's out here for some reason. And Rich Crabtree and a couple other friends and stuff from one of my units. We all got together there, and he has cotton candy grapes sometimes. And Ryan Beagle's like, yeah, that's my family's business. He's like, what? Like super duper small world, right? But the one day me and the wife were at Sierra's, and I had a steak. It's the best steakhouse in town.
Oh, no. And it's the best steakhouse anywhere, not just that town.
Dude, it's even phenomenal. I had a steak. I'm like, man, that was excellent. And he's very proud of his business.
Yeah.
And he takes a lot of care in the quality of his food. And he's like, everything is fresh. Like, come here. And like, he takes me on a tour. He's like, see the chips? We make the chips. We fry the chips here. See how clean that oil is? Mm-hmm. And then we go back to the freezer, and he's showing me all the meat. He's like, USDA Prime Select. Look at this. Shows me the tomahawk steak stuff. I was back there for like 20 minutes, and I was like, I want a tour too. Yeah. Dude, we love Sierra's, man. We go in there all the time. Place is fantastic.
Super good dude.
Yeah, he is.
Well, hey, man, if you ain't got nothing else that you want to break up, we're going to, we've been at it quite a while. And I know you want to probably get home because you're got family stuff to do. And then I got something else I got to head out to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, you got to be somewhere because you're important.
Go ahead.
Because you're important. You've got.
No, I'm not. I'm farthest from important. I promise you that. But anyway, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
It was nice just catching up, if nothing else.
Absolutely. And I definitely need to step down your ways a little bit more.
Yeah, man.
Now I know that you're down there.
Actually,
I've gone down there a couple of times. You haven't been there, and I'm like, well, I thought but you guys are there like 3 days a week, right?
Oh, yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
We're in the office.
Yeah. So you'll see me more often, man.
Okay.
Now I know where you're at. All right, guys, we're going to head off here. Thanks for watching. Do all the little stuff that you do online, subscribe and all that good stuff.
Smash that like button.
All that good stuff. Right. And we'll see you next one. All right.